When my daughter-in-law told me I was no longer family, I smiled instead of crying. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I had learned, over many years, that some pain is too deep to show. We were standing in the kitchen, the same kitchen where I once packed my son's school lunches, the same place where I burned toast on busy mornings and laughed about it later. That morning, everything looked normal. The light came through the window, the kettle made its soft sound, and she smiled at me, just like always. Her voice was calm, careful, almost gentle. "I think it's better if you stop seeing this place as your home," she said. "You should understand, things change." I nodded slowly, as if she had said something small, as if she had only asked me to move a chair. Inside, something shifted, like a piece of me quietly falling out of place. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I didn't remind her of the years I spent raising my son alone. I didn't speak about the nights I stayed awake worrying about his future. I didn't say that this house was built with my hands and my patience. I just smiled, because I knew that if I spoke, my voice might shake. And if my voice shook, the truth would spill out. And once truth spills out, it cannot be put back. The room felt silent in a strange way, not peaceful, heavy. I could hear the clock ticking, the hum of the refrigerator. Even my own breathing felt too loud. She kept standing there, waiting for my response. I folded my hands together, the way I do when I want to stay calm. "I understand," I said softly. She looked relieved. That was the part that hurt the most, because in that moment, I realized something very clearly. I was not being pushed out loudly. I was being erased quietly. And this is how my story truly begins. Before my life became quiet like this, it was full of sound. Not loud sound, but living sound, the kind that fills a house without trying. I remember mornings when my son was small. He would wake up before the sun, full of energy, asking questions that had no answers. Why is the sky still dark? Why do birds sleep standing? I didn't always know the answers, but I always listened. His father passed away when my son was very young. I never planned to raise a child alone. Life made that decision for me. From that day on, my world became simple. Work, home, my child. Some days were heavy. I worked long hours. My body ached. My mind felt tired. But when I opened the door and heard my son's voice, everything softened. He would run to me, talking without stopping, showing me drawings, broken toys, dreams too big for his small hands. We didn't have much money, but we had warmth. Our meals were simple: rice, soup, sometimes just bread and tea. But we ate together. We talked. We laughed. The house wasn't perfect. The paint peeled in some corners. The furniture was old. But every corner held a memory. The table where I taught him to write his name, the sofa where he fell asleep on my shoulder, the hallway where he took his first confident steps. As he grew older, I watched him change. His voice deepened, his dreams stretched farther, and slowly I understood something every parent must accept. Children don't stay children. When he told me he wanted to get married, I smiled. Not a forced smile, a real one. I wanted him to have love. I wanted him to have a family of his own. I told myself that marriage would add happiness to our home, not take it away. The first time I met my daughter-in-law, she was polite, quiet, careful with her words. She greeted me respectfully, or at least that's how it seemed. I told myself to give her space. I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to become a burden. I wanted her to feel comfortable. I wanted her to feel like this was her home, too. After the wedding, she moved in with us. At first, everything felt fine. We shared the kitchen, we shared meals, we exchanged small conversations about daily life. I noticed small differences. She cooked differently, she arranged things her own way, but I stayed quiet. Times change, people change. I believed patience would protect peace. My son seemed happy. That mattered more than anything else. So I stepped back. I spoke less. I stopped giving advice unless asked. I let her take control of the home slowly, quietly. I told myself this was maturity. This was respect. But silence has weight. And the more silent I became, the smaller my place felt. I still lived in the house, but I no longer felt like I belonged to it. At night, when everyone slept, I sat alone in my room. I looked at old photographs, birthdays, school days, moments frozen in time. I asked myself when the warmth began to fade. Was it something I said? Something I didn't say? Or was it simply time doing what time always does, moving people apart without asking? I didn't know then that this quiet distance was only the beginning. I didn't know that small silences can grow into deep wounds. And I didn't know how fragile my place in that home truly was. The days after the wedding passed quietly at first. Nothing loud, nothing sharp, just small changes that felt easy to ignore. I told myself this was normal, a new woman in the house, a new rhythm. I reminded my heart to stay patient. She woke up earlier than me. The kitchen was already clean when I entered. The tea was made the way she liked it, not the way my son grew up drinking it. I smiled and thanked her. She nodded politely. At first, I thought she was being helpful. Later, I realized she was slowly taking over every space I once filled. My son started eating meals on time, without waiting for me. Sometimes they ate together before I came out of my room. When I joined, the plates were already half empty. No one said anything. That silence said enough. I began to speak less, not because I had nothing to say, but because my words felt unnecessary. Advice I once gave freely now stayed locked inside me. I did not want to sound old or unwanted. Small things started disappearing. My favorite cup was moved to the back shelf. My chair at the table shifted slightly away. No one mentioned it. No one apologized. Once I gently asked my son, "Did I do something wrong?" He smiled quickly and said, "Ami, you worry too much." But a mother knows. She feels distance before it has a name. My daughter-in-law stopped asking me questions. What to cook, what my son liked. She decided everything, calmly, confidently. I watched from the side, pretending it did not hurt. At night, I sat alone in my room. I looked at old photos, birthdays, school days, simple smiles. I wondered when I stopped belonging. The house was not angry. It was polite, quiet, controlled. And somehow that hurt more. I started adjusting myself to the walls, walking softer, speaking carefully, making myself smaller so no one felt disturbed. Love had turned into caution. One evening, I tried to join their conversation. I shared a memory from my son's childhood. They smiled briefly, then continued talking without me. I nodded and excused myself. That night, I cried, silently, into my pillow. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to release the weight in my chest. I still believed it would pass, that patience would fix everything, that love would remember me. I did not know this was only the beginning. I did not know the real pain was coming quietly, with a smile. That morning felt ordinary. The kind of morning that does not warn you before changing your life. Sunlight came through the curtains. The house was clean, quiet. I was folding clothes in my room, thinking about nothing important. Then I heard her voice. Soft, careful, too controlled. She knocked on my door. She never knocked anymore. I opened it slowly. She stood there with her hands folded, her face calm. Not angry, not rude, just decided. "Can we talk?" she asked. My heart tightened, but I nodded. She did not come inside. She stayed near the doorway, like this room was no longer mine, like her words had a time limit. She spoke gently. She said the house felt crowded. She said she needed peace. Then she said the sentence that quietly broke me. "It would be better if you stayed somewhere else for a while." For a moment, I did not understand. Her tone was soft, almost kind, but her meaning was clear. I smiled. I do not know why. Maybe because crying felt too heavy, maybe because I had learned that tears do not always protect you. I asked, "What about my son?" She looked away for a second. "He agrees," she said. That was the moment my heart slipped out of place. Later, I asked my son myself. He avoided my eyes. He said it was temporary, but his voice had no strength. That is how I knew. This decision had been made without me, quietly, carefully, completely. That evening, I packed my things, slowly, respectfully, like a guest who had stayed too long. Each item carried a memory, a cup, a shawl, a photo of my son as a child. I folded my life into a small bag. No one stopped me. No one asked me to stay. The door closed softly behind me. I did not look back, because some homes stop being homes long before you leave them. I moved into my sister's home that night. It was small, warm, and full of care. She did not ask many questions. She only held my hand. That was enough. The first few nights were the hardest, not because of the place, but because of the silence inside me. I lay awake, listening to the fan. Every sound felt louder than before. My mind kept returning to one thought. Not the house, not the room, but my place in my son's life. I helped my sister during the day. I cooked, I cleaned, I stayed busy. But quiet moments followed me everywhere. Sometimes I blamed myself. Maybe I stayed too long. Maybe I loved too deeply. Parents forget that children grow away, not because they stop loving, but because life pulls them in new directions. I stopped calling my son first, not out of anger, out of tiredness. I needed space to breathe. One afternoon, he came alone. No message, no warning, just him standing at the door. He looked older, smaller somehow. We sat across from each other. The room was silent. Then he said, "I failed you." I did not speak right away. I let the words settle. He said he was afraid of losing his marriage. He did not realize he was losing his mother, too. I placed my hand on his. "I never stopped loving you," I said, "and I never will." We cried quietly. No accusations, no anger, just truth. That moment did not fix everything, but it softened something inside me, enough to forgive. I learned something important that day. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is choosing peace when anger would only keep you trapped. Today, my life is quieter than it used to be. I wake up early. I sit by the window with my tea. I watch the morning light move slowly across the wall. It reminds me that time does not rush pain. It allows it to heal. I no longer live in the house where I raised my son, but I carry those years inside me. No one can take that away. Sometimes I miss the sound of his footsteps, the way he used to call my name from the other room, the way the house once felt alive without effort. Those memories visit me, gently now, not with pain, but with gratitude. I learned that love does not always stay where you leave it. Sometimes it changes shape. Sometimes it learns to stand at a distance. I also learned that being kind does not mean being weak. Walking away quietly can take more strength than shouting. Keeping your dignity is its own kind of courage. I do not hate my daughter-in-law. Anger is heavy, and I have carried enough weight in my life. I wish her peace, because peace is what I searched for too. And I finally found it. Not in a house, not in people, but in acceptance. If you are listening to my story tonight, please remember this. Your worth is not measured by where you are allowed to stay. Your value does not disappear when others change. Sometimes the coldest moments teach us the warmest lessons. Sometimes losing a place helps you find yourself. And sometimes silence is where healing begins. Thank you for listening. If your heart feels heavy tonight, please know you are not alone.